Council, September 24, 2015 to order. Katie, would you call the roll, please?
Coos,
Here.
Harris, Carlson, Kiefer,
Here.
Sievertson,
Here.
Zingy. Here.
Thank you. If you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I have nothing. Oh, I do have one thing under communications. It's from Councilman Harris. He left a note and asked if I would read it for him, and it says, I believe there's something not right about having an overtime meeting, extra meeting to discuss employees' overtime. So that brings us, no other communication, brings down to persons to be heard. Lee.
Good evening. My name is Lee Caskey. I work for KPU Telecommunications. I live at 12794 North Tongass Highway. The reason I'm speaking tonight is on behalf of some things that I've overheard at around the shop about the recent negotiations with KPU and the City of Ketchikan and the workers therein. There's been a nasty rumor circulating about that they want to remove the funding and all language concerning the apprentices in the telephone division from future hiring. And I'd like to bring up a couple of points. As I stand here today, I've been an employee of KPU for 12 and a half years. In that time, I can probably count on my hands and my toes the amount of people that have come and gone from KPU, that have come up from down south and left for various reasons. Now, some of them are still with us and they're exceptionally good workers. Some of them obviously have left and gone for reasons that are their own. But the funny thing is that since 1998, there has been 7 apprentices indentured into the program through KPU. I am one of them. Starting in '98, we had Jared Anderson and Jeff Hendrickson. They both turned out and became journeymen. Jared is currently the lead man and the main person involved in all line work that KPU Telecommunications undertakes. Jeff Hendrickson is a key member of the inside plant personnel, overseeing a lot of the technical aspects of the inside plant operations. And following him was myself and Ken Berry, who is a splicer and works on a lot of the projects that we're currently undertaking. I'm an all-rounder. I can work anywhere, just about anywhere in any field throughout the telecommunications world. And we also have, after me came Sven Westergaard, who's not only a splicer himself once he turned out, but he's also the representative on the executive board for the IBEW, for the Unit 104 at the IBEW here in town. And now we have 2 new apprentices that are still going through the program that are shortly going to become high-time apprentices capable of working on their own, and each one of them has demonstrated skills in what they're doing. I'm concerned that by removing this opportunity from people to enter into the apprenticeship program, which has proven its value, is tremendously short-sighted. I think that I recall recently there was a cut cable on Schoenbar Road. As soon as the report came in, it was examined by Jared and Ken, and before anybody even knew what was going on or could issue any kind of orders or commands, they had already been there, evaluated the site, evaluated what needed to be repaired, and was already back at the shop getting gear and equipment and materials ready for the immediate repair, which they worked on tirelessly until it was repaired. That kind of dedication comes from people that were that grew up in this town, that came from here, that have a vested interest in keeping this company going. So like I say, since 1998, all the apprentices that have gone through KPU's apprentice program, the apprentice program through the IBEW at KPU, we're all still here. I say Jared and Jeff, they're number 1 and 2 in seniority at KPU Telephone. I'm number 3. And that's just in 12 and a half years. So I think it would be tremendously short-sighted to allow that program to stop. If anything, right now, I'm what is considered a combination technician, meaning that I install fiber optic systems, I repair any number of TV, internet, and phone circuits all over the island. And right now, my job classification has 3 openings that we are actually interviewing people from all over the United States, from down south, that we're going to bring up. We're actually getting ready to turn out another couple of apprentices, our last couple of apprentices, our most recent batch. And I think that rather than hiring on 3 new people, why don't we hire on two more apprentices and get them trained up as well? It would be a lot more beneficial to us. Plus, if any of the 3 of these new people show up, we would have a couple of apprentices that, again, have a vested interest in staying here in town, that we could be trained up to take their place should one of them decide to leave early. It's a guaranteed future for the operation of the company. So I understand this meeting's all about overtime, but part of dealing with overtime is man hours and getting things done in a timely manner. The more people we have on a job, the better. And contrary to popular belief, apprentices are not a wasted effort. Every one of them, we take time to train them in the way they should go and the job that they should do. Do it right the first time. One of the 3 tenets of being a journeyman, what they aspire to be, is 1, to do the job right the first time, 2, to be able to learn and be able to be trained in anything relevant to your field. But the third and the most important aspect of being a journeyman is to be able to train those who come after you. And that's what I'm very much involved in. So I'd like to bring that to the attention of the council.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Thank you, Lee. Anybody has questions? Thank you. Van here? Van or Vaughn? Vaughn?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Did you sign up?
No.
Sheet? Okay. How about Jason? Hudlin?
Good evening. My name's Jason Hudlin. I'm fairly new to the KPU family. I work at telecommunications. I'm just going to reiterate what Lee had to say about, I lost the word.
The apprenticeship.
The apprenticeship, thank you. I don't come from that background. I've been doing this for basically 20 plus years. Right now, the way to get into this career, you either go to a tech school or you contract work. And that's how I got into it, was contract work, which means you travel all over the country. You've got the opportunity here with the apprenticeship program to keep some of these kids in town and start them in a good career. And I think giving that up is a terrible idea. That's really all I've got to say.
Jason, what do you do for us?
I am outside plant.
Outside one?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions? Tina, read off.
My name is Tina Bredehoff. I live at 3725 Baronhof. I also work for KPU. I reiterate the comments of the first 2 speakers. I think that the apprenticeship program is very important to the community. I think that it is forward-looking into the future for our community. It encourages people to live there or to live here and to be a part of what I think is a great company. It's a great city. I love it here. I've lived here since 2010 and I truly love it. I do have a few questions for the council. Today is, from what I understand, exactly 1 year since we have began our negotiations for our contract. And I'm just kind of wondering what's going on, because from what I'm understanding, our side of the contract is offering and we're not really getting anything in return. And I just wonder, is there going to be movement? Are you guys wanting to solve this? We should really work towards resolving this and getting a contract in place. Second of all, are you guys being given copies of the contract with the changes, of the proposed changes? Are you getting those and reading them? Because we wonder if you're really aware of the things that are on there. That's all I have to say about the contract. As far as revenue and income, and because I believe that Councilmember Zengi had mentioned before that if we wanted a raise, we should probably try to find a place to get it. I was looking at our electrical rates, and we're really low as far as the average for the state. I don't know how many kilowatt hours we have per year. A rough estimate, maybe 150 million kilowatt hours that we're using across the island. Looking at the average that we have for electric, our rate for residential is 0.0958. The average for the state is 0.1284. If you take 150 million kilowatt hours and divide it by the difference of those two, over a year you're looking at about $4.8 million. So when we say we can't raise rates, when we're incredibly low as far as the state is concerned, how can we not raise rates if we need to take care of the people that keep the lights on? That's all I have to say. Is there any questions?
Thank you, Tina.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else on the that didn't sign up that wishes to speak? Thank you. That brings us down to new business, discussion of general government and KPU department overtime. Councilmember Zengi.
Thank you. I want to be clear that my intent of this meeting is to find out more about how we do business. Yes, there are increases. I think that we have to look really closely at our budget this year. We do have contract negotiations, but it's going to take a little bit of raising rates, cuts, and making sure that when we budget for things, we're budgeting for what we need and not what we want. My plan tonight would be to go through the departments. Not every department is of concern to me. I can't speak for the other two. But I have questions to certain department heads to just help me better understand exactly how we get to where we are. And I think I'd like to start that. I have questions for Dave. So some of the information that I was given, and Bob, I want to thank you for all the work you did on this. It really helped me understand the process. Was the budget performance report. I don't know if you have a copy of that. So one of the things I noticed is that there's some departments that are over budget when it comes to their overtime. How does that work? Are they notified that they're over budget? Do you guys ever see it? Do they say it? I just don't know the process of that, and I guess I'm curious about how that works.
Okay. And Bob can weigh in on it as well. But normally, traditionally, what's happened is as we get towards the end of the year, as the departments are reviewing where they are on overtime, historically, we will bring the associated budget transfers forward to equalize things out for the year or to project for the last 2 months, 6 weeks, whatever it may be. Not that those transfers come out of reserves, but from out of other accounts, other projects within the department to fill that up. Sometimes there are some years where where in some departments it does run over. Absolutely.
So is the overtime budget itself, that number, is that a percentage of salary, or is that something that the department heads work on, or are they just, do they actually provide you with their overtime budget, or is that something you guys look at and go, it's a percentage of?
Each department prepared their own overtime budget based on their anticipated overtime need for the upcoming year. It's not a fixed percentage of their budget.
Okay. I don't want to, do you guys have any?
No, keep going.
No. So-
You're doing fine.
Well, we can stop here for a little bit, I think, for the sake of the viewers and the audience. Bob, what is our average overtime usage per month?
Per month right now, it's about $128,000 per month.
That's okay, and that's for all departments across the board,
Yeah.
right?
Actually, that was through the end of June. And then in July and August, the average dropped down to $122,000 per month. And that's just the cost of overtime. That does not include benefit costs.
And so how much of the benefit cost is on top of an hour of overtime?
I
40%.
would say approximately 30%, between 25 and 30%.
Okay. And as Judy relayed, there were some of them that have gone over budget. And in one particular department, they show a deficit of $81,000. And this is for a budget report for September. I mean, we're only, 3/4 through the year. How does that get reviewed by a department? I mean, if you budget and you get to a point 3/4 through a year that you're $81,000 in the hole on a 216 budget, how do you justify that, I guess?
Well, traditionally what we have done, I think David Martin hit on that, is during the preparation of the budget for the upcoming year, that's when the department do their projection for the rest of the calendar year. And at that point, we look at the numbers and more carefully and see what the shortfalls may be, if any, and then we bring back to the council a housekeeping budget transfer that Assistant Manager David Martin made reference to. And most of the time, those funds are transferred from some of their accounts and not appropriated reserves. And quite often, some of the overtime is related to vacancies, so we actually transfer money from regular salaries into overtime to cover that shortage.
Thanks, Bob. Anybody else have a question?
Well, since you raised the issue of vacancies, I guess I'm not expecting you to have this number necessarily, but I'm curious. When I look at I was looking at the 40-page list of where the overtime was occurring, and yeah, I get when police. I get police officers. I get fire department. I'm not so sure I understand administrative assistants having overtime. I'm not sure I understand grants coordinators having. And those ones tend to strike me as being a staffing issue.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess my curiosity for this whole thing, the big picture was, what percentage of this $1 million we're looking at on this particular thing is related to overtime that was unexpected, and what is just simply we haven't filled positions or have we made decisions to say we don't need that position and now we're griping about the overtime, but we cut the position. I guess I need to get those numbers so I can get a sense of what really is the issue here. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but you're right. I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but it's something that we could put together, but we'd have to work with the department on that.
And I was also, I get that. I think in many of the departments I understand why there's overtime, but I would have liked, and I apologize, I've just been too busy to ask this, but I wondered a list of positions that are unfilled at this time. Because I think that's going to play into that too. But again, I don't understand overtime in marketing, for example. I don't get that. I get electric, I get fire department. I am going to have some questions about this FLSA, and mostly because I don't know what it means, really. I've read it, but I still can't wrap my head around it, so I am going to ask about that. And then the rest, I've read most of the contracts, so I have an understanding for that. But mostly I want to know what we can do to cut this number. The number's high to me. And I know that there are times that it has to be, but there has to be something, maybe shift changing, something. I just want to know if we've thought of those things. And so that's kind of why I wanted to ask the questions of the department heads. You're on it.
Thank you, Judy. Dick?
Yeah, I really don't have a lot of questions right here, department heads, and I want to say something up front. I know some of this is people fixing power lines and broken water lines, and it's got to be done. We're going to go do it. But as I look at it and I look at the numbers, that's got to mean there's a lot of people that either we could be hiring or we got to do something different. So I guess my expectation is somehow or other management and the employees, and that's possibly through the union, look and see how can we do a better job. And I don't know what the answer is, but you guys do. All I can do is look at the numbers, and the numbers I'm looking at, it's available to all of you. I've got it on the agenda here. And I'm gonna give you a couple of examples of just trying to go through it. And I think this is fairly accurate if I didn't screw up the numbers, but there's over 60 people taking in over $5,000, I'm not gonna say a year, up until this point in time, in overtime. And I could get more detailed, but there's more than one that's over $30,000 up to date. And I can't put my ears around it. You folks have got to put your ears around it and work with us and management on what's going on. And maybe every bit of it's authorized and maybe every bit of it's legitimate, but that's a half a body. And that's kind of where I'm coming from is that we got to do a really good job of using our money, because even though we may have the lowest rates in the state, doesn't mean we got to go zinging our customer. And on some things we need to raise rates, and they're going to get raised, but we're going to do it very judiciously, because we don't work for you, we work for the public.
They are the public.
Well, you are the public and you're going to pay the rate, but the other guy's going to pay your rate. And you know what I mean. You don't have to go picking back. You know what I mean. So somehow or other, we've got to get our act together as it comes up to next budget time. We're not going to do much this time unless we run out of money or we get into reserves, but I don't see general revenues such as sales tax or property tax going up. It's not there unless we jack it up. And then we've got to listen to a lot of people as we do it. So I'm looking for, I guess you might say us and you, because you folks are studying out there, you're concerned. And we got to work together to work it out. And that's really all I've got to say.
Dave, for instance, like on the water department, we got a sheet from management that talks about the overtime review for specific departments. And in that particular department, there was some expensive overtime issues in regards to contractor work in the street. Is that reimbursable through the capital projects?
I'm going to defer to John on that one.
Yeah, John, I'm speaking like Jackson Monroe. There was, a $62,000 overtime allocation to that particular project. Actually, there was two. Jackson Monroe, there was another $80,000. So there's $142,000 in overtime hours spent either dealing with or working with the contractors on those projects. And I was wondering if those costs are covered out of the capital project itself.
Well, since that project was funded entirely through grants and loans, as Bob submits the reimbursement paperwork periodically, the labor costs that the utility encountered is actually submitted too, isn't it, Bob?
So that's rebated out of the capital project, or we can get some of that recovered?
If we charge the labor to the capital account, we do pay for it out of the bond proceeds and the grant funds. Quite often though, what happens is we have more cost than we do bond proceeds and grant funds, so the portion is not reimbursed from grants and bonds is typically covered by other revenue sources. In the case of KPU, it would be KPU revenues.
Yeah, so when we approve these projects with grants, bonds, or however we're funding them, we understand what the cost of the project is on the capital side, but it seems like we incur costs on the operational side.
The operational side, we do not seek reimbursement for operating expenses. No, that's not permitted under Under the ADEC grant and not under the bond, not the restrictions or how the bond proceeds can be used. They're supposed to be used for the actual construction of the project, not any cost to operate or maintain.
And so I guess my statement going forward is maybe we should look at how we handle those projects and see if there's a way that we could reduce our staff overtime in regards to the support on those. I know that that we have to watch a project, we gotta make sure that they function, and a lot of times there are specific issues that have to be dealt with in the field. But it seems like we're spending quite a bit of money out of our operational costs to make these capital projects move forward. Thanks. Thanks, John. The other one, and Judy had alluded to it, it has to do with our shift employees. An unknown consequence when we went to the 9648 with the police department is under federal regulations, we have to give them 10 hours of overtime per month. Is that about right, Bob?
You mean the fire department?
Fire department, excuse me, yeah.
Not 10 hours per month.
It's 10 hours per, it's a little convoluted how you read it, so.
Yeah.
I know enough about it to be dangerous, so Chief Hope may want to add.
Mr. Hogue probably will help you out.
But basically, we have what's called a 48, 96-hour shift. And what that means is they work 24 hours, they take 24 hours off, work 24, take 24 off, work 24, and then they take 96 hours off. Okay, that is a work schedule, and that covers 9 days. During that 9-day period, 10 hours is considered to be overtime. But that 10-hour period is repeated again. I'm sorry, that 9-day work schedule is repeated again, so there's the potential of just a little over 3 9-day periods in a month.
You're really close.
Okay. That's why I said I don't want it to be dangerous.
Tell us what it's like,
The
Chief.
work cycle, the work cycle for a firefighter, it could be 9 days. In our case, it's 24 days. And 182 hours is the FLSA threshold that an employee can work in a 24-day work cycle before they're eligible for overtime. All of our firefighters are scheduled for 192 hours of work in a 24-day work cycle. Under the contract, all time, leave or otherwise, is considered time worked. So if I take 24 hours off during my 24-hour work or 24-day work cycle, that's still considered time worked under FLSA because we've written it into our contracts that way. So I will still get 10 hours of overtime pay at the end of that 24-day period. We are already paying the employee that full hourly rate. So the 10 days that they get paid for at the end of the cycle is only the difference for that half-time difference between their hourly rate and that hour and a half, or the 1.5 required under FLSA. That helps, right?
Yeah.
Clear as mud, Chief.
No. Okay. So, do you have any more specific questions?
No, that was the big
Well,
one for me.
Again, this is kind of pre-budget stuff. We're trying to figure out if there are indeed ways that we can help or we can work at saving money through the departments. And again, it's the department heads that know the schedules and what we're doing that makes that work. For instance, if we have a department that is scheduled overtime consistently to keep up with the workflow, after hours, say, until 9 o'clock in the evening, would it make sense to hire another person and have them work a shift that covers that area under straight time?
Let me help out. Maybe this will help a little bit with the FLSA. That FLSA that we pay the firefighters accounts for 14%, as of the June report, it accounted for 14% of our overtime budget. A very, very small portion. Our big portion is call-outs.
Thank you.
I think we understand that. I think
Right.
that's we get that.
I can try to put something together, a little more detail on the FLSA to try to help explain it. It is a very, we could probably do a whole day on FLSA and that overtime requirement, and then trying to explain the intricacies of how we've worked, how it's gotten worked into the contract here. And that's where it really gets confusing.
You can schedule that for Judy, actually.
I'll schedule
Yeah.
it. Sorry I can't make it any clearer.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, thank you. Anybody else have anything they wanted to bring up or discuss?
Yeah, I guess, KPU sales and marketing. Kim?
Kim Simpson, Division Head Sales, Marketing, and Customer Service.
So I guess I was curious, there's overtime in marketing. Is this all the local filming that we're doing? Is that what that is?
To be specific, I'm over IPTV, so the local content. I'm over customer service and marketing. There's actually no overtime in the marketing department. Those employees
Well, this says
are all.
marketing.
Yeah, it's the name of the entire department. There is no overtime in the actual marketing department.
Oh,
Those are
well,
all salaried
I'll tell you what,
employees.
I'll send you, you can go ahead and sit down, I'll send you an email. I'll be very specific. Thank you.
Excuse me, if I may.
You may.
On that one, very broadly speaking, one of the things that we have in the KPU contract has to do with the customer service reps when we moved to the plaza.
Right.
Okay? And a portion of that, if you will, when we were in at the other building before we moved to the plaza, the hours were different. When we moved to the plaza, we started staying open until 6 o'clock. The contract that we have with IBEW provides any hours worked after 5:30 is overtime, paid at the applicable rate. So for those people whose shift takes them until 6 o'clock, they may get 7.5 hours of straight time, but that last half hour between 5:30 and 6 is going to be overtime.
So that is all the customer service ones that were in there, they
That
relate
would
to-
pertain to customer
Okay,
service reps,
good.
absolutely. And so, in part of what, not in the supplemental report, but in the report that was out for the August 20th meeting, one of the things that Carl had the department heads do and that Carl put a lot of time into was identifying a lot of those things that require overtime based on whatever the individual collective bargaining agreement may be or the personnel rules, however that is. That happens to be one of those that's covered under contract.
So dialing that back, if you do reduce hours,
Reduce hours, you close at 5:30.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's
That's an option. Okay.
absolutely.
Does that mean old mall require us to have certain hours, or
I don't believe so.
didn't even flinch?
And again, I appreciate all those that work overtime because we've had power outages where our crews just work themselves into the ground. And all the information I read, and I did a bunch of research on overtime management, is we can subject ourselves to a burnout cycle in regards to too much overtime. And I know that we have one particular employee and one of them that was so much farther above anybody else across the system. So kind of raise a flag and makes you concerned about whether that person is, I guess, spending too many hours on their job, working too hard.
Right.
And I don't know how you manage that, but I'm just, you know.
If I may again, just speaking in very broad brush terms, there is always the option of, and the potential for training additional people to do additional things, right? But as we're talking under the terms of the contracts that we have, all right, especially on the KPU side of the house, one of the things that's out there is that scheduled overtime is voluntary, which means even if you're trained for doing it, if it's scheduled overtime, you don't have to take it. Okay? So it comes back to who wants to step up. So that's a big part of it.
Okay.
But still, though, $30,000 worth of overtime, wouldn't it be better for us to get an additional position for them?
That would be a council decision.
I'm just
As
curious.
far as for putting additional personnel on,
I
you
mean,
weigh,
I
you
don't
weigh,
know.
I mean, when you weigh the cost of the overtime versus the cost of another full-time employee
Full-time.
with the benefits and all.
Yeah, that's gonna be more than 30,000.
$30,000 in 6 months seems like.
Yeah, Bob?
Yes.
Yeah, a couple of things. One is in the management report, it starts averaging the number of hours back per employee in a department, and that to me is meaningless. It's what's going on in specific areas in that department. You can average it back to a half a day or half an hour overtime per employee, and you have enough employees, it adds up to a whole bunch for somebody. So that doesn't mean anything to me, but with the number of positions that according to this report for a half a year are getting over right now working at over $5,000 a year overtime or for 6 months, I think management and the department directors need to take a look at those positions and see what's going on, and some of them may be totally justified. Somebody may have spent a whole week extra on a power line fixing it, and it may be justified, and maybe that's where the ones with the 30, although there are two different departments, I think, where the $30,000 ones are. So part of it may be legitimate, part of it may not, but we need some reasons why it was legitimate and what's going on, especially on anything that, to me, over $7,500 to $10,000 and over. Those people are working their buns off, and some of them may be working so much time they shouldn't even be out there because they're going to hurt somebody. And I know there's no intent to do that because they're all trained to be safe. But when you start working that many hours in a week, and some of those are showing up that many hours, we're taking a chance. So I guess I'm somehow or other trying to ask staff to take a look at those really, really high ones and see if there's something that needs to be done that we can work with ourselves or work with the union folks to work out how we work this out. Solutions.
And of course, part of the problem is as a council, we're looking forward to what's going to happen in budget, and we already know that two of our utilities together, including the payment in lieu of taxes, lost $1.8 million last year. And somehow we got to make these budgets match up. They can't continue with that type of a draw on reserve. So it'll be rates, but it will also be thinking outside the box and see if there's a way that we can serve and save money within the departments. We're a service-oriented operation. We provide service to this community, and we'll maybe have to make that hard call of what kind of service we're going to provide. We're maybe providing a Cadillac service right now, and we may not be able to afford to continue to do that. So as employees and sitting here as a council, I'm just asking that everybody takes a good hard look at it and try to do what they can to bring forth ideas or solutions to some of these issues as we move forward. Budgets are going to get harder and harder as we move forward. We know that. Nobody likes to raise rates, especially in times of decline in revenues in the state. Isabella just laid off a bunch of people in the coal mine. The economy is slowing down. State monies for the projects that we have in the town, all the big, large construction projects, they'll slow down. We'll lose some people and we'll lose some revenues within the community, and so we got to adjust to that. So that's all we're asking. We understand we got good employees. We understand that we have fairly decent business sense, and we have dedication. So I think we can work together and find some solutions. Anybody else have anything else?
No, I agree. I think we're gonna have to look at, there's gonna be additional areas to cut. We gotta look at new revenue sources, and we all know the most common one that's being talked about recently, and rate increases. And to me, if there's ways that we can reduce our overtime, I think we need to look at that. I don't think all departments that's even a possibility. But I think that there are some things that the departments can do to work with us to get a better budget for us.
I think part of this is gonna be an hour survey too, to find out where we're spending this overtime in regards, like, especially like in the telephone right now. I think they're the largest, or, the department that's using the most overtime, and they're over budget by 83,000 right now, and this is just a report as of September, so we're looking forward, they're gonna be even farther, and they're gonna have to get that money back out of their budget someplace else through transfers, and so, something's gonna run short someplace else in order to do that. So, we just need to look out the next couple of months and see what we're doing, and if there's a way that we can help ourselves. Anything else?
You know, Bob, you're gonna get us a list of positions that haven't been filled.
I didn't believe HR got anything yet, but if we can get it for
Oh,
We can get
great.
that, yeah.
Okay.
Dave?
That's fine.
Judy? Anything? Dick?
Are you looking for comments or anything else
Anything else?
Anything else?
on on this?
Yes.
Okay, no.
All right. So that would come down to mayor and council comments. Dick?
Just one, all of us received a letter from a lady that's on the museum board,
Yeah.
and I guess I was not aware that we had approved the floor plan, so I'd like to have that floor plan brought back to us to look at
Well,
and their comments.
No, well, the plan itself, the design is coming back, it's gonna be at the meeting of October 1st. What was approved previously was the ability to move forward with getting the design done. So the design itself hasn't come to council yet, they just met on it, it'll be at the meeting of October 1st.
Okay, and just to comment, I don't particularly like the idea of administrative offices being on the main floor, because we're gonna wanna expand it and that eats it up. So, we'll look at it when we get it.
Things to talk about.
Let's see, there was some, I'd like to thank everybody for showing up, listening to us, because we've got common problems, and we gotta work them out together.
Judy?
Yeah, I'd like to thank everybody for showing up, and I do have other questions, but I'll just talk with individual department heads about those. And that's it. Thank you.
Dave?
Nothing more to add from what they said. We are negotiating, we are working on this. Just remember, there are two sides to every negotiation.
Thank you. I have nothing else either. So, and motion to adjourn?
So
Stand adjourned. Thank you.